Hello guys, I'm Xiaoan. Yes, how have you been? It seems we haven't seen each other for a little while because I went on a trip. This time I went to Guizhou province in China. Guizhou province is actually one of the less economically developed provinces in China, and compared with many of the other places I have visited, some part of it still feel a little untouched. By the way, if you are new to my channel, my name is Xiaoan Cao. I'm a writer, entrepreneur, and just someone trying to live a more meaningful life one step at a time. And back to my trip in Guizhou province. This time I was living in a tea mountain, and I went to see the waterfalls, and I picked the tea leaves and learned how to roast them, and also I see the stars at night. And the most exciting part is I went to see FAST. You know what is FAST? FAST is China's 500-meter aperture spherical radio telescope that is the largest radio telescope in the world. So why do I want to see FAST? By going all the way to see it. It's do you read science fiction? One of my favorite science fiction novel that has a huge impact on me is the Three Body Problems by the Chinese writer Liu Cixin. So the story is about humanity sending a radio signal to the space using something like FAST, and that signal was received by an alien civilization called CreatorStories, and that starts a war between humanity and the CreatorStories, something like this. So I just think the idea of communicating with another civilizations in this universe is kind of fascinating for me, because deep in my heart I personally believe Earth is impossible to be the only one in this universe that is with civilization. So I believe in aliens, and especially when we are looking up at the stars at night, there is just something very instinctive in our heart. It becomes curious, and we want to know more about it, and we begin to have romantic imaginations. Maybe one of the deepest desires of humanity is to go beyond our little world and to reach the stars and to arrive at Mars one day, and to find out whether we are really alone. So I think that's why I want to see FAST. And these days when I am close to FAST and seeing the stars and living in the mountains, I begin to have a deeper feeling of a Chinese traditional concept, that is, everything moves in cycles. Talking about cycles, there are small cycles and also there are enormous ones. And the largest cycles we can observe are, of course, the astronomical ones. I mean the celestial bodies movements that over an unimaginably long period of time. For example, the movement of moon will affect the tides on Earth, and for example, the planets like Jupiter, which is been long observed by Asian Chinese people that is intertwined with how we see time and human life. So some of this astronomical body movement even stretch over the length of our entire human life. So that made me think about maybe our life is also nested in the larger system like this. Think of Guizhou. Guizhou's climate is humid and subtropical with abundant rainfall, and that geology and climate over a long period of time shape how its landscape looks today. The mountains, the valleys, and their villages are scattered and relatively small, and that affects how people live there. Large-scale agriculture and transportation are almost impossible compared with the other part in China with large plains. And so it also shapes how the industry was developed in this province, Guizhou. It has its own industry to develop, such as hydropower, coal, and Guizhou, the China lacquer, because the quality of its water resources are excellent, and that's why one of the best, most famous, and also most expensive Guizhou Maotai comes from Guizhou. And also the other industry, more modern, is the data center. Why? Because Guizhou's climate is relatively cool, and the cost of electricity, water with electricity, is relatively low, which is very suitable for the development of big data center to be safe and processed here in one of those quiet mountains. So this is a very interesting contrast. And when I am talking about this, I want to say is actually the bigger cycles shapes the smaller cycles. So we tend to think of our life as completely individual stories, but they are not. We are all living and largely affected by the bigger systems. For example, where we live depends on what kind of opportunity that exists around us, what kind of industrial near us decides what kind of job we can choose. And yeah, we are all living inside a bigger picture. So maybe that's also why I went on this trip, is partly because I felt like my own cycle has also arrived. You know, when I was living in the city, in a modern society for too long, and to work every day and with the screens and informations and trying to be efficient every day, I just want to escape for a while and just to go to the mountains to be more nature and just to eat simple food and meet simple people. It's kind of like charging a battery for me. And that cycle happens 3 to 4 times a year for me. And so let me ask you, how well do you know yourself? Do you have this kind of cycle? How often do you think you need to work, and how often do you think you need to stop and just to go away for a while? Or how often do you feel that your cycle is coming? To summarize, astronomy, climate, geography, population, economy, we are all these cycles operate in a larger scale, and our personal life are just affected by this kind of larger cycles, and we also have our own little cycle. So that's why I want to remind you, no matter where you are in this summer, just take a while to look up at the 90 stars, and you will find out that we are not isolated beings. We are all connected to a bigger system, and I think that's what I want to share with you in this video, and I will see you